What's going on, fight fans? It's your host Sebastian, and welcome back to the Boxing Tip. Now, this will be my final fight review of today. But first, before we get into that, let me just kind of put out a quick announcement to a Mr. Pete Long. I hit you up last night, bud. I need you to hit me with that information so I can get that sent out to you. Alright, so with that being said, let's move on to this. Now, once again, I feel like my breakdown was on point. The prediction was not. I picked Carl Frampton to win this. I'll be honest about it. Obviously, you could always just go back to my breakdown and prediction video of this fight and see that I picked Carl Frampton to win. Once again, it was another hard fight to choose from, given the circumstances in the first fight and how the first fight played out. Made it really difficult, because the first fight was a good fight, very competitive. This fight was also very competitive. Nevertheless, there was a very clear winner tonight, and that winner was Leo Santa Cruz. Congratulations to Leo Santa Cruz. Impressive performance, man. And let me just start off, let me start off by saying, before I get too into detail about the fight itself, is that, Leo Santa Cruz showed something special in this second fight, man. It shows that he is very multi-dimensional. He is not a one-dimensional fighter, and he is a very talented boxer. Obviously he has, factory status type of fucking production line type of, volume of punching, and that's been his MO in previous fights. But in this fight in particular, he knew he was up against who many people considered to be, even including myself, a much more skillful boxer than himself, you know what I'm saying? But he made those necessary adjustments in camp, obviously. Came out, implemented a strong game plan, stuck to it, didn't lose his cool, kept his composure, remained balanced, patient, did exactly what he needed to do to win this fight. And if you ask me, it was a much more, it was that separation that I was talking about, you know what I'm saying? And Leo Santa Cruz really separated himself to be the better man last night. So, once again, congratulations to Leo Santa Cruz. But let's talk about the fight in a little bit more detail. Now, in my breakdown and prediction video, I talked about Leo Santa Cruz's jab and how he needed to keep that jab active, flex it. It didn't need to cause damage. It just needed to keep Carl Frampton at bay. Like I said, he's in and out. He'll jump in there, use his speed, use his athleticism, and use his, he has a bit of an issue with looping punches. He can throw his punches a little bit wide at times. But, aside from that, he picks and chooses his aggression very intelligently, and he usually implements a strong escape route from when he's done putting in his work. Leo Santa Cruz put a stop to that, especially in the first half of the fight. Carl Frampton did get some moments where he was able to be successful, but for a majority of the fight, Leo Santa Cruz's game plan really held Carl Frampton at bay. He implemented that jab into his game plan a lot more effectively than he did in the first fight, and it was beautiful. It was a sight to see, man. It was really, really impressive to see Leo Santa Cruz fight in such a manner, patient, so composed. You know what I'm saying? And he was being really smart. He kept his shot, and another thing I mentioned in my breakdown and prediction video, he kept his shots nice and tight. He wasn't forcing power on those punches. Leo Santa Cruz, he doesn't have the highest knockout ratio, but he has some crack, enough to bother his opponents, if you ask me. Really good body punching in this fight by Leo Santa Cruz as well, man. I saw him digging that left hook to the liver. It was awesome. But, going back to, what I was talking about, he really kept that jab strong. There was times where he wasn't using it, but he would end up using it. One round he'd probably stop using it so much. I've watched the fight only like 2 or 3 times, man, so these are my initial thoughts. I'd have to watch it a lot more times to get a lot more, specific details, but these are just more my initial thoughts. There was times where he wasn't using the jab, and then he was, and then that's when he was usually more effective. He would make Carl Frampton, it seemed like he was getting desperate to get in and get his punches off and then get out. Well, keeping that jab in Carl Frampton's face, man, he had to first figure out, just like I said in my prediction video, he had to first figure out how he was going to be able to get in. Once he got in, Leo Santa Cruz would anticipate the aggression and was more effective in the exchanges, landing the nice, tighter, cleaner shots on Carl Frampton, especially in the first and second round, man. He was catching Carl Frampton with some really good shots, catching Carl Frampton backing up with some good shots. On the way out of the exchanges, he was catching Carl Frampton with some good shots, man. So Leo Santa Cruz really knew what he needed to do to make it a different fight this time around, and he stuck to that game plan and, you know, really showed the boxing world that he is more than just, you know, what he was in his previous fights. You know, he is more multi-dimensional. He can outbox the boxer, and I think that in itself, aside from the victory, says so much about Leo Santa Cruz, man. So I'm very proud to see some shit like that go down, man. It's always a sight to see when you see a boxer come out and fight an intelligent fight and do exactly what he needs to do to win the fight, while the fight is still very entertaining. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and that raises questions, you know, about the first fight. You know, did his father's cancer have anything to do with the outcome of the first fight? You know, and I'm not trying to really, how do I say this, make any assumptions here. It's just speculating to kind of suggest a couple of things, and, you know, just to kind of make you think a little bit, you know, because it made me think a bit. Maybe the absence of his father in his last training camp, you know, affected the outcome of the first fight, you know, and Leo Santa Cruz's preparation, you know, not being optimum for the first fight. You know, I'm not saying that he wasn't 100% prepared, but his game plan probably wasn't in order. He probably didn't know exactly what he was getting into, but he made the necessary adjustments in the second fight. His father helped him out. Obviously, being in the camp really gave him a boost of confidence. He came out and fought like a very confident fighter, knew exactly what he wanted to do. So a lot of positive things to say about Leo Santa Cruz. Now, if we talk about Carl Frampton, it seemed to me that he tried in a way to fight the same fight as the first fight. You know, I don't think Carl Frampton, even though, you know, and it was funny because Carl Frampton, man, excellent fighter, dude. I'm a huge fan of Carl Frampton. And in the interviews, you know, it made me chuckle. Like, he said that he told me what he was gonna do, you know, and, you know, Carl Frampton knew what to expect. He just didn't think that Leo Santa Cruz can completely, how do I say this, can completely separate himself from the fighter that he was into the fighter that he was in this fight. You know what I'm saying? Went from being a more aggressive, you know, come forward, volume punching fighter to a more tactical, more patient, more balanced, more poised, more intelligent boxer, you know, as he was in this fight. Now, Carl Frampton had some good spots. I actually gave him 4 rounds. That's the most I could find. You know, I wasn't like sitting there with a pen and pad or anything, but, you know, like I said, if I go back and score it, I'd probably, you know, get something a little bit more accurate. But from my initial thoughts, you know, I saw Carl Frampton win in maybe 4 rounds. He made some decent adjustments, making, you know, doing a little bit more head movement on his way in, and trying to attempt to make it a little bit more of a scrap to where he can use, you know, his shorter arms and shorter punches to kind of lure Leo Santa Cruz into an exchange that he didn't want to be in. Or, you know, he used his, you know, coming forward and was, seemed like he was trying to put the pressure on Leo Santa Cruz, you know, instead of Leo Santa Cruz putting the pressure on Carl Frampton. So it seemed like Carl Frampton was trying to make the adjustment to be the more aggressive fighter, which, you know, he started off that way, it seemed like, because he did look like he was trying to figure out how to get in on the inside of Leo Santa Cruz and take away Leo Santa Cruz's extension on his punches. But, you know, the jab of Leo Santa Cruz made it easy to, how do I say this, made it easy to expect Carl Frampton's, you know, aggression and time his aggression coming in. So, but, you know, Carl Frampton obviously needs to take a look at this fight. I do believe a trilogy is going to happen. 1-1, you know, Carl Frampton got the first one. Leo Santa Cruz took the second one clearly. I think a trilogy, I would be happy with it, you know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of boxing fans out there would be happy with it. Obviously, we always want to see fighters fighting different fighters, you know. You know, repetition in matchups, it's not such a bad thing, you know, especially given 2 of the top 126 pounders fighting against each other in 3 matches. It's not a bad thing. but we always want to see see these guys in there with someone different. It makes for a more suspenseful, exciting atmosphere. But I would not mind seeing a trilogy. I would like to know who really is the better fighter. And the way that Leo Santa Cruz punctuated this victory, I'm really convinced that he may just be the better fighter. That maybe the first fight, there was other, third-party distractions, or, there was other factors into why the fight, played out the first time around, the way it played out the way it did, you know what I'm saying? But not trying to take away anything from Carl Frampton's victory, for his first fight. Obviously, it's a little too far gone for that one, but, maybe we had the wrong, maybe not everyone, but maybe Carl Frampton had the wrong idea of Leo Santa Cruz based off of the first fight. And I think that played, into Leo Santa Cruz's favor this time around. So, once again, like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing the third matchup, man. I think that now that both fighters have really gotten comfortable, and really are familiar with each other, I think a third fight, Carl Frampton will make those necessary adjustments. Leo Santa Cruz is going to be the one to have to kind of figure out what Carl Frampton's going to be bringing to the table next time around. So, to me, it really evens the playing field. We might just see what we can consider the first match. You know what I'm saying? Not to take away the victories for both guys in the first two fights, but in a third fight, being that the playing field is a little bit even, they're much more familiar with each other, we can truly find out who the better fighter is. But I did see a big separation in the second fight, man. So right now I am leaning towards Leo Santa Cruz being the better fighter between the two as of right now. I would have, in a third fight, winner takes all type of deal. We'll find out then. But if that fight doesn't get made, oh well. We got two very satisfying fights from these guys already. So if anybody's complaining about a trilogy not happening, I don't understand that, and I don't understand the people who would be bashing a trilogy, because honestly, if you ask me, it's a win-win either way. If we get the trilogy, if we don't, you know what I'm saying? Maybe if they don't fight each other, we can see one of them maybe take on Lee Selby, or maybe Frampton. Shout out to Sean Newton, he actually brought this up, man, and it made me excited when he said it. But maybe we can see a Lee Selby and Carl Frampton matchup, which would be a super fight in the UK, being that both fighters are from the United Kingdom. And then maybe see a Leo Santa Cruz, for us what would be considered domestic, a Leo Santa Cruz versus maybe Gary Russell Jr., And I'm not exactly sure what's up with Gary Russell Jr. in his career. I haven't really been paying too much attention. There was a lot of things about him and money and, not being the most active fighter, and his career being very unstable from what it seems like. I'm not exactly sure the details, but I would like to see Gary Russell Jr. get back in there. He has a fight coming up, so we'll see how he looks then. But afterwards, I would like to see him really get back into fighting some of the top fighters at 126 pounds. A Leo Santa Cruz matchup definitely doesn't seem out of the question. They all fly under the same banner. Wouldn't be too hard to make those fights. So that's all, that would be another awesome matchup. But once again, man, congratulations to Leo Santa Cruz for really taking this fight seriously, knowing what he needed to correct from the first fight, and implementing a very strong game plan to get the best of Carl Frampton this time around. So, you know what I'm saying? Major props to him. Also, major props to Carl Frampton for still making it a competitive fight. Like I said, if they have a trilogy, then we can really figure out who the better fighter is between the two. You might already have your assumptions now, and believe me, I already have a couple assumptions of my own on who I think the better fighter is, and it's really easy to do that. But I think a third fight will really, tell us everything that we need to know, whether it's right here in the States or whether it's overseas in Belfast. I don't care where the fight takes place. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the judges' scorecards. I don't know what the fuck that dude was talking about with the draw. I can see maybe a couple of swing rounds going, maybe one or two swing rounds going in Carl Frampton's favor, I guess, depending on the angle that you got, whatever side you were sitting on the ring at. But 114 was, to me, not a very good scorecard at all. I don't see how that fight was a draw. you know, but hey, he's seen what he's seen, so I guess it is what it is. The other guys, 115, 113, little bit too close for my liking. I had 116, 112. I don't think Carl Frampton pulled 5 rounds in that fight. That's just my opinion. Maybe if I watch the fight again, I might see it differently. Who knows? But watching it the first 2 times, 3 times, without actually just enjoying the fight, and reliving the moment, there's no way I seen Carl Frampton winning more than 4 rounds. That's just my opinion, though. But I could take a further look, really, really focus on scoring it round by round by round, and not just watching the fight as a whole, but watching each round individually and scoring it that way. So maybe I'll have a much more accurate scorecard, for me at least. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this fight. It was an amazing fight. I'm sure a lot of you guys, out there were very entertained by this fight, enjoyed watching this fight to the fullest. But let me know what your thoughts are. Would you like to see another rematch, or would you like to see these guys fight somebody else? There's no wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? If you would see a rematch, I don't blame you. But if you want to see them fighting somebody else, I still don't blame you, because, like I said, watching guys fight different fighters, man, it creates a suspense factor of how those fights are going to play out, or we get to see something a little bit different. So rematches are never a bad thing, depending on how the first fight went, I guess. But in this case, another rematch definitely wouldn't be a bad thing, given that both fighters have victories over each other and they only have defeats against each other. So, I think that has all the makings for a trilogy. But once again, I don't blame you if you prefer either or. But share the video with your boxing homies, subscribe to the channel, introduce somebody to boxing. Do not let a newcomer to boxing miss out on a great fight like they did last night. If, there was a boxing buddy that you introduced somebody to boxing to, they didn't get a chance to see it. But don't let them miss out on any of the future 2017 action. It's looking like a very good year. But that's all I got for you guys on this one. I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.